I signed for them after the Euros, and after my first day's training, I was driving home. I was actually thinking,
regretting it.
What have I done? Like I walked into a circus.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Nathan, before we get into any deal talk, will Manchester United be top of the league by the end of today? Can they beat Klopp's injury hit Liverpool on Sunday evening?
By the end of today, I think they will. And yeah, they can beat Liverpool at the weekend. Funny, I was watching Liverpool-Manchester United from 2009 over the weekend. Stumbled upon it. They were showing the full game. What a game. Gerrard and Torres peak at their powers. Rooney and Ronaldo for Manchester United. And Liverpool obviously won that battle and won it well. But Manchester United always went on to win the war. And that may be what we see here, that maybe United do scrape a victory, but I still can't see them finishing above Liverpool in the Premier League table. They're going to Anfield at a good time, considering all the problems that Liverpool have. And these games, aside from the 2-0 win for Liverpool last season, generally been very, very tight. It'll be interesting tactically how Solskjaer sets up to counter Liverpool. But there's no reason why, with the talent United have, they can't beat them. But even if they do win, I would still expect Liverpool to finish ahead of Manchester United.
Was that Nemanja Vidic getting destroyed by Torres that game?
By Fernando Torres, yeah, the 4-1.
All right, wow. Roy Keane's potential return to football management has been discussed on the show. A one-line answer. Who are the highest ranked club who might realistically take a punt on Roy?
Queen's Park Rangers, Sheffield Wednesday, bottom third of the championship right now.
That's what you think, yeah?
Yeah, listen, it's 10 years since he's managed the team, so I would hate to see him leave our TV screens, but I think he deserves another chance. I think he has done enough as a player, as a manager, to get another opportunity.
The TV gig is a good gig. It's a great gig. It's an enjoyable gig. Stick with it.
Arguably a far more influence there than you do sitting in the dugout at Hillsborough.
Way more. Right, former Man City winger Trevor Sinclair believes that Leo Messi's potential move to Manchester City could cause complications for Kevin De Bruyne's contract negotiations. Those talks are reported to have stalled. His current deal runs to only 2023, which is transfer saga next season, obviously, at the end of this one, if they don't do a deal. If Messi comes to the club, who deserves to be Manchester City's highest paid player?
If Messi does come, it's Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi deserves to be the best paid player wherever he goes. And Kevin De Bruyne, while you might be the footballer of the year, you're having the greatest player of all time coming to join you, and all that will bring commercially. So while I'm sure it will cause issues and will change the structure at Manchester City, and maybe they can work around it, because with financial fair play, they're going to have to structure this deal in a way that they're not paying Lionel Messi 500 grand a week and Kevin De Bruyne trying to respond. But De Bruyne is in a position where he is arguably the best player in the Premier League. He's certainly up there in the top 2 or 3, that on his own at a club like Manchester City, he can expect to be paid 250, 300 grand a week. But if Messi is coming in on a deal where he's getting up on 500 grand a week, you just got to suck it up. But it is, I'm sure, it's not just Kevin De Bruyne. When Phil Foden is signing a new contract, suddenly everything is doubling.
Yeah, Phil Foden's going to get very well paid as well. Do you believe De Bruyne will stay at City long term?
Yes. Yeah, I think if Messi is coming, you don't want to leave.
Napoli have long-term ambitions to sign Arsenal and Scotland defender Kieran Tierney. How impressed have you been by the 23-year-old's recent form, and where does he rank among the league's best left-backs?
There's a lot of good left-backs in the Premier League at the moment. I'd probably have him obviously behind Andy Robertson, who is the best left-back in the Premier League by a distance still. Sergio Aguilon's been very good at Tottenham since he arrived in. Tierney's in a different position in that he's playing in a pretty poor Arsenal team, but like Robertson, he's the one who's bringing a huge amount of character to that side. So it's not just what he's doing as a left back, and technique wise, he's doing everything right. He's getting into those advanced positions. The quality of his crossing seems to be improving. He's a very, very solid defender, but it's in a team lacking leaders that he seems to actually be the one who's bringing that bit of doggedness, who's bringing that bit of character. So he's getting better. There's no reason in the next season or two why he isn't in the mix to be the best left back in the Premier League. But I think Robertson is still, in terms of the quality of his crossing as much as anything else, is still a step ahead of everyone else.
You love him, Eoin?
Yeah, he's been brilliant. I think you can't but love this guy if you support Arsenal. He's been Arsenal's best player, maybe second best player out after Bukayo Saka this season. I think he is the second best left back in the Premier League at the moment. A lot of hardcore Arsenal fans would say he's better than Andy Robertson at this point, which is definitely an overstatement. Robertson is definitely the best left back in the league. If this is real, I'm not sure where you're getting your sources from. This would be a disaster for Arsenal if Napoli did come in and swoop for him, especially if it's a short-term thing. I can't imagine there's any truth to this in the short term, because Arsenal have already let Sead Kolasinac go this window, and I'm sure that if Kieran Tierney was on the way out, they would have kept him for the rest of the season, basically. So I'm not sure this is a short-term thing.
We've seen many signs of Arsenal's fall from grace on the pitch over the last few years, but off the pitch, if Kieran Tierney was to leave mid-season or even next summer, Kieran Tierney is a type of player you got to build this side around over the next couple of years. Do Arsenal fans think he's better than Andy Robertson? Because I often think they have a weighty support of the Celtic supporters behind them who feel that Kieran Tierney is better than Andy Robertson simply by the fact that, well, Kieran Tierney played for Celtic, which gives them an extra level of competence that, well, poor Andy Robertson can never have.
Well, the thing is, Arsenal fans exist in a post-ironic world where everything we say is very ironic, where Bernd Leno is Oliver Kahn and David Luiz is Virgil van Dijk. So it's hard to sometimes actually take the real comparisons and actually think, is this a legitimate comparison that people are making? But I do believe there's a certain section of the fan base that, like you, expecting to go close to Robertson over these next few years and perhaps become better than him. Playing for a better team would help, definitely, if he was in Robertson's position and had Sadio Mane as the person he's tic-tacking with on the left-hand side. Would he be a better player? Would he look a better player? There's no doubt he would. So I think you've got to give him a bit of credit for shining in a team that has been terrible for a lot of this season. But I think actually since Saka has moved on to the right-hand side, he's got a bit more freedom in front of him and has looked a hell of a lot better. But yeah, you're right. It would be terrible, terrible, terrible news if this deal or no deal moment were to actually come true.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question on Bernd Leno? Because listen, we all get a little bit of abuse online from time to time. But a couple of weeks ago, I was doing commentary on Aston Villa against Chelsea, and I made a comment about Emi Martinez and how brilliant he was. And surely there are people at the Emirates who are wondering how they let this guy go. And I have never got so much. I have never got so much abuse. The amount of DMs I got from angry Arsenal fans to learn something about footy, mate, before I go on the TV discussing Emi Martinez, that Bernd Leno is an outstanding goalkeeper and there's no way in hell we would swap. So maybe do a bit of research.
I remember listening to that commentary, Nathan, and I almost punched my television with the commentator that was on the mic that night. I actually don't have any issue with that statement. But what I have an issue with is the revisionism that's going on about Emi Martinez, that people are like, oh, well, people knew that he was going to become the next big thing, which they didn't really know at Arsenal. This was kind of a random occurrence last season that he became as good as he was. And when he became as good as he was, there was always going to be clubs interested in him to the point where he wasn't going to be happy to be backup goalkeeper. And Mikel Arteta had to make a choice between Bernd Leno or Emi Martinez. Leno, who's been brilliant for Arsenal, even though Martinez had been as well, got his pick. And I think fair enough. The decision was the correct one. I do remember that commentary moment, though, Nathan, and I'm sorry you got so many DMs. I apologize.
How many burner accounts do you have?
A lot. If I ever get praise on Twitter, it's me who's praised myself.
Creative Bournemouth midfielder David Brooks is an Aston Villa target. They also have their eye on making the deal for Ross Barkley permanent. The latest reports are the Barkley deal won't happen. What impact would Brooks make at Villa Park, and what do you know about him, Nathan?
I know 2 seasons ago he was exceptional for Bournemouth. They had that attacking team of Brooks, of Fraser and Wilson, and they were pretty devastating. Brooks picked up a bad injury, never really played at all last season. When he came back then, when football restarted, he looked miles off the pace. But he's obviously back playing week in, week out. The worry when you hear of them signing somebody like David Brooks is he a Jack Grealish replacement? I know he generally plays more on the right, but he can sort of play anywhere. That's why he would be such an attractive signing for Villa, is that he can play on the right of a front three, he can play a little bit deeper in midfield. And Bournemouth have been selling so far. They've got rid of Fraser and Wilson already. It is whether they'd be willing to sell him in January when they're putting together a pretty decent push for promotion back to the Premier League. But at his best, he was nominated for Young Footballer of the Year when he was at his best. He's still only 23. So for Villa,
good
if
signing.
they could get him for 15, 20 million, a very good signing.
All right, deal or no deal, star Paul Pogba is expected to leave United in the summer. Juve have been touted as the most likely destination, but the Daily Star reports that Mauricio Pochettino wants to bring the French World Cup winner to Paris to build his team around the 27-year-old. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is Paul Pogba to win a Champions League in the next 5 years?
To win a Champions League, I thought you were going to ask to leave Manchester United. To win a Champions League, I would say 7 or an 8. He's always going to be at one of the best clubs in Europe. Like, even if he leaves Manchester United, it's going to be to a Paris Saint-Germain or to another side that are going to be getting to Champions League quarterfinals, semi-finals. So there's no reason why Paul Pogba can't be a Champions League winner and ram it all down our throats, everything that has been said about him over the last few years. So, yeah, I don't think Paul Pogba is just going to fade into oblivion over the coming years.
All right, very quickly, literally a minute left in this. Jesse Lingard is being linked with a move to Inter. A great deal of Manchester United if they can get him to take any of his massive salary off their hands, but it will only happen if Christian Eriksen can be offloaded because he's been a complete flop. Where does Christian Eriksen, who's 28, go from here?
Well, Arsenal was the speculation, wasn't it? It hasn't worked out for him at all. And he is one of the only ones of the Premier League players who've ended up in Italy. And it's surprising because everything suggests that Christian Eriksen would slot in comfortably, but he's not getting any game time. And is a return to the Premier League? He was one of the best, most talented players in the Premier League before he left.
For a while, then there was a year where he wasn't.
And maybe his head was turned, and maybe it's just gone. Like, if it's a year that's turned into 2 years, how easy is it to get it back? I'd imagine there's still no shortage of clubs in the Premier League who would take Christian Eriksen back. And for United, it is finding some slot for Jesse Lingard that will either take him permanently or take a good chunk of that salary. They did extend his contract, and I'm not sure where Lingard fits into that Conte side at the moment, but it does feel as though momentum is building around Jesse Lingard and he's going to go somewhere.
All right, that is today's Deal or No Deal.